Hi folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. Well, in one of my other series of fishing reports to you, I've talked about some of the incredible memories that I've had through the years that I've experienced in going fishing. But my memories are about the things that happened outside of just fishing, the animals and birds I've observed, the strange things happening in nature. One of the things that has happened to me recently, one of the places that I go running, and it's through a deep, thick woods, and I have it all to myself. And it really is peaceful for me. But a week ago, on one of my runs, as I was running down this dirt, mountainous road, all of a sudden, I could hear a bunch of crows making all these sounds. And they were disturbed because I was there, but they were around in big numbers for some reason. And one of the crows started flying down the road. It had left a couple 100 yards from me, apparently from a tree. And it's flying down the road, following the road, coming towards me. And it's not treetop level. It's halfway up the tree. In other words, it's only maybe 20 or 30 feet above me. And it gets closer and closer. It looks down. It sees me. It makes some noises, and it keeps flying. And I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. Well, within seconds, I see another big crow coming right behind it down the road towards me. And it gets closer and closer, and I'm like, wait a minute. That's not a crow. That's a bald eagle. I could see the bald front, its head, and then its tail all white. And it gets close to me like the crow did, but it sees me. And unlike the crow, it didn't continue its flight. It thought, okay, I'm not going to chase that crow any longer. It turned around right in the middle of its flight. I can't even tell you now how it turned, but it turned around and made a U-turn and headed right back down the road the other way it came. And I found this really, it was a great experience to watch. The crow trusted me enough, or was not afraid of me. It knew there was a bald eagle about to get it. The bald eagle had a different opinion. It didn't like me being there, and so it turned around and let the crow go. It reminded me of a story my buddy Dave told me a few years ago. He was in a deer stand, and he was hunting near Canton. And he said he was up there, and he watched this crow come down, and the crow had landed on the ground, was feeding, apparently where somebody had dragged a deer through that area, and there was some remains there or something the crow was feeding on. The crow apparently was so intent on its feeding, it didn't realize what was about to happen. And Dave said, out of nowhere, this hawk came flying, and it came down and it hit that crow. And Dave said the crow started screaming and making all this sound. And the hawk held it down, and Dave said it started looking around, just looking around to see if anything else was there. And Dave said what happened next he couldn't believe. That hawk picked that crow up, which was still screaming and struggling, and off it flew. He said, I couldn't believe that hawk could carry that crow and still fly, and it did, and it flew off. And Dave could hear it in the distance. And he heard that crow screaming and screaming in the distance. And then he said everything went silent. Apparently the crow had finally died, and that hawk had won the battle. It wasn't a battle to him. It was just everyday life for that hawk. But to experience it, to see, who would know these things happen? I didn't even know that hawks were feeding on crows. I mean, I guess I just never thought about it. But to see it, experience it, and hear it, and it reminded me, thinking back to that, of that day just a week ago when that eagle was chasing that crow. And one other thing, a little while after that, after the eagle had disappeared and everything, I could hear a hawk off to my right in the woods. I could hear its sound, and then I could see it flying, and it flew across the road and went down in another part of the woods. Well, it wasn't 20 seconds later I heard this cacophony, I guess that's the word, of bird sounds. I could hear crows and blue jays all yelling out and sort of crying the alarm out to everything around. There's a hawk coming. There's a hawk coming. And it's amazing. It's amazing when you can be out in nature and have the opportunity to experience this, to hear it, to see it, to feel it. It's poignant. And it's something I just wanted to share with you because it's part of being out in the outdoors. And that's what I've always said. Fishing gives us the opportunity to escape from the bounds that we make around ourselves in the life that we have today, inside, cooped to our computer screens and our phones and so forth. If we can get out, whether it's to go out and go fishing, to walk a trail, to do whatever, the world opens up to us if we're only willing to listen and to hear and to see. It's really something special. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.